time to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So Marvel Phase 5 is finally here, and this weekend a lot of you guys are going to be going into theaters to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania and see how it kicks off the rest of what's to come. Now, the review embargo for this movie has officially lifted, and since then, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania has officially become the second worst rated MCU film in history, right behind Eternals. Now I want to make it very clear that this video will not contain spoilers. You guys are free to watch this video if you haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, but I am going to be doing a separate video later on once this film comes out and you guys have seen it, and we'll talk about what this movie sets up and break down a ton of things that happen within the movie. So I got the chance to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania a week ago, and for the past couple of days I've really just been sitting on how I feel about this movie, what I truly think, and overall, I did not like this movie. When I classify movies of whether or not I like them or love them, I classify them in that category by thinking, yo, I cannot stop thinking about this movie. I want to go see it again. I want to continue to talk about it. But when it comes to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, I don't really want to talk about this movie because there's a lot that I didn't like about this film. There's a lot of potential that I felt was completely wasted. So I want to let you guys know that when it comes to this movie, you have to go into this film thinking that this is an episode 1 to a greater cinematic saga. You know, the MCU has kind of become a cinematic TV show that goes down on the big screen instead of cable television or a streaming service. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania truly feels like episode 1, and it feels like this is where things are really kicking off. Phase 4, setup, all of that was just laying the ground. Now, I enjoyed this movie as an episode 1, but as a standalone film that's supposed to conclude the Ant-Man trilogy and still stand on its own, I did not enjoy this movie that way. And I don't want MCU films to slowly become episodes instead of their own things. You know, even though Captain America Civil War is a small piece of the Infinity Saga, I can go back to that film and watch it from beginning to end, and it's a great story that stands on its own. When it comes to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, this isn't really a story that stands on its own. This is a story that is meant to get you excited for what's to come, but by trying to set up the future so much, they fail to entertain you within the 2 hours that you're sitting in that theater. Now, when it comes to certain movies, there's some movies that are so bad that they're actually enjoyable. But when it comes to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, this is a movie that clearly had so much potential, but it was just squandered. And by the time you leave the theater, you're just left thinking like, damn, there was so much they could have done with, you know, Scott and Cassie's relationship, with Hope's character, with Hank Pym. Janet Van Dyne was one of the highlights of this film alongside Jonathan Majors, and I'll get to talking about them in a second. But when it came to Scott and Cassie's relationship, and Scott kind of dealing with the aftermath of the blip, Scott dealing with, you know, the personal problems that he has as a father, having missed so much time, you know, not being able to witness his daughter Cassie grow up into the woman that she is in this movie. There was a lot that was there that was just unexplored. When it came to the marketing campaign for this movie, a lot of the trailers, a lot of the marketing centered around that issue of Scott trying to get that time back.
I'm the man who can give you the one thing you want, time.
A lot of the emotional depth that we saw in the trailers just wasn't explored in this film, and it wasn't built upon. I'm a massive fan of the first Ant-Man movie and I actually think it's very underrated. But when it came to that first Ant-Man movie, it felt like a lot of the elements that made that film special were just not present in this film. In this film, Luis and the rest of the gang aren't in this movie. Pretty much the entire movie takes place within the quantum realm. And Peyton Reed recently said that he wanted this movie to feel like an Avengers level movie, but it felt like in his pursuit of trying to make an Avengers level movie, it left out a lot of the elements that made the first Ant-Man movie and the second Ant-Man movie special. I also gotta warn you guys, MODOK is done dirty, man. MODOK is so done dirty, dude. It feels like Marvel truly did not know what to do with this character, so they just, you know, lazily put him up there in this movie and kind of just made fun of him the whole time. Like, MODOK is a running gag in this film. His CGI looks pretty terrible, but I'm willing to go as far as to say the writing of his arc in this film and his dialogue is even worse than how he looks. MODOK in this film is actually Darren Cross from the first Ant-Man movie, so there is already a pre-existing relationship between Darren Cross and Scott Lang, Darren Cross and Hank Pym. And just the way MODOK is done in this film, I just did not enjoy that whatsoever. He was probably my biggest negative coming out of this movie, and holy cow, I am not ready to see MODOK on my feed for the next 2 to 3 years of people just roasting this character, because guys, prepare, because that's what's about to happen on social media. Now, you guys know me, I hate talking about negative stuff and truly love to focus on the positive. So let's talk about the positives of this movie. Now, the biggest positive of this film is Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror. This film feels like it abandoned, you know, Scott and Cassie and the importance of their relationship to this franchise, and they just went all in on setting up Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror. When I tell you this movie is Kang's homecoming party, it is Kang's homecoming party. And throughout the entire film, they're just building up the mystery of Kang, building him up as a threat, and then when you actually see him on screen, Jonathan Majors does not disappoint. Kang isn't someone that you can expect to be cracking jokes. No, he's cracking threats, and he is very serious. Jonathan Majors is him. So Jonathan Majors absolutely carried this movie on his back, but even then, it's not enough to solidify this as like a great film. This film gets you excited for what's to come. This film gets you excited to see more of Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror, because this movie establishes him as the new face of the MCU, and there's no better person than Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror to lead these next couple of movies building up to Avengers the Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. And that's the next positive that I have, is that this movie is a great setup for Phase 5. This movie kickstarts Phase 5, and it does a great job in doing that. Again, that is this film's main priority. This film's main priority isn't to conclude the Ant-Man trilogy. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania prioritizes setting up Phase 5 and what's to come. They tease and foreshadow a lot. They establish a lot of the lore of the multiverse. You're gonna see a lot of connections that we saw in Loki. You're gonna see a lot of that in this movie. So they established a lot of the lore of the multiverse, what Kang's after, what are his motivations. The post-credit scenes. There are 2 post-credit scenes in this film, and both of them are massive. Don't expect some throwaway gag. Both post-credit scenes will get you super excited when you leave the theater. And again, this movie, that's the best way I can describe it, man. I enjoyed this movie as an episode 1, but I did not enjoy it as a conclusion to the Ant-Man trilogy as its own standalone film. So look, overall, I feel like you gotta enjoy Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania as an episode 1 to a greater cinematic saga. This film fails to satisfyingly conclude the Ant-Man trilogy. There is a lot of potential here that is just completely untapped. Jonathan Majors will shine and he will do his thing. Another highlight of the film was Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne. She was a great part of this movie. She was probably the second best character besides Kang. Now, for the film itself, again, I wish I could love this film as its own standalone thing, but that's not what it tries to be. It truly tries to be just a setup movie, an episode 1, and that's not what I want MCU films to be. And that's why I didn't enjoy this movie in the way that I wanted it to. It had great elements. Again, it was a great opener for Phase 5, but I don't want MCU movies to feel like episodes. I want them to feel like standalone movies that can stand on their own. Nonetheless, because this movie is a setup movie, there is still a ton of exciting things to talk about and look forward to. So I look forward to continuing to create content on that and cover that stuff and talk about it with you guys. In the comment section down below, let me know if you have seen Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Leave your review in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe, and look, thank you guys for watching. I love you guys 3000, and I will see you guys next time.